Hi, so today we're going to work on the collar part of the shirt, which has the collar attached to a collar band. In this case, I just did it in a different color to show you. And it's a kind of collar that when you put it on, it'll roll over the collar band. And there's a little extension, and it would be for your button-up shirts. So I'll just pin this one to kind of show you. It's not pressed or anything, but this is what we're going to be doing. I'm going to do it in the white to match the other videos, but so that's that. The pieces that you will need is a collar. Your pattern probably already has it. The collar, the undercollar and the upper collar, and the collar band. So you'd have an upper and a lower under collar. And you need to, I already put it on here, you need to interface the upper collar, the under collar, and you put the interfacing on the lower band, underband piece, okay? So you're going to end up putting the two pieces together, right sides together. I'm going to start with the actual collar part itself, which is this piece here. Just pin it together. And you are going to be stitching this side. So you're going to go up the short side, around the long curve, and the other short side. This is for the neck. This curved part here is for the neckline. So we're not going to do that yet. Oops. So just pin it nice, make sure it all fits. And then I'm going to go ahead and prepare the collar band as well. Now on the collar band, you need to look at the shape of it here. I'll turn it this way. This is the round part that goes like on the collar, where it just goes like a little extension. So that's the round. So this is the bottom of the collar. So I want you to just fold back about a half an inch or whatever your pattern says. Sometimes the necklines say 3/8. I'm just going to do my standard half inch and fold it up and press it to prepare it for sewing. All the way. Come back to this side. Oops. A little bit of a curve, so you just have to finesse it there to make it lay flat. Okay, so from this side, it should look turned under and nice, and you can just go ahead and repress it. Make sure it's pressed well before you start to assemble, because it's not as easy to press later. Okay, so now I can go ahead and pin the other part with the interfacing over it. Sometimes on a shirt, I'll even interface both parts. You have to decide what you need. This is a white cotton, like a shirting. So I'm only going to do it on one side for the demo. If you wanted like a real crisp men's shirt, you may want to put the interfacing on both sides. Okay, so I'm going to take it over to the machine. So since I'm not stitching this side, you're just going to start with the one short end. You're going to use a regular stitch length, and you're going to sew at the ½ inch seam allowance, back stitch. Then when I get closer to the point of the collar, I tend to reduce my stitch length a little bit so that when I turn the collar out and I use a pointer, it will be less likely to break the stitches. It's only a little bit less. It's a smaller stitch length, and only for maybe a ½ inch or an inch, and then I'll bring it back to my normal 12 stitches per inch. Again, I'm getting closer to the other corner, so I'm just going to reduce the stitch length again. You can see how it's stitching smaller even by the speed. and then pivot, and then bring it back. Okay. So if you look closely here, you can see the stitches are just smaller right around the point, and then they're the normal standard size here. So the next step would be that I want to go ahead and grade the seam allowance, and I start with the side with the interfacing. Just keep my scissors a little bit at an angle. These are, I think, a 5-inch scissor from Ginger, and they're really great for this kind of work. They're not too small and easier to use than the big ones. You want this layer to be the shortest layer, and then I'm just going to miter it at the corners there to allow that point to reduce. You want to remove as much excess at the point as you can, but also you can't go too short, or when you go to turn it, it'll just pop. So go back over here. I'm really not going to do too much more up on the top for the video's sake, but you have to determine, like, when if you have a bulkier fabric, do you need to reduce more? So this is, let me just do a little bit more, make it kind of neat. Okay, so you want them to be like a squared off corner there. You would go ahead and press it, but I'm gonna just go straight to the point turning first. If you have the, I just don't want to do it for the video, but you would want to come in here and press all of this open. So I'll just do a little bit with my stick here. Press these seams open and then press them flat towards the side with the interfacing. So this is your regular side, and this is the side that's got the interfacing, the stabilizer. So just make sure that you press it with the iron nice and crisp. I'm just going to use this to help, so I'm not doing it in the video. And then this is a point turner. It's made out of wood. It's beveled at the end. You can also get these in plastic. I find them a little safer than using your scissor, which I think a lot of people do. And then you can just put it into the point and be a little gentle. This is why I put the number 1 stitches, or 1.5, so I could do that without it worrying about the stitches popping. You can also just take a pin if you need to get a little sharper. But so if I was to look at this, I might want to go ahead and reduce a little bit more of my bulk in there. But I don't like to do that first, because if I do, there's no, and it's too much of a reduction, there's no going back. Just a tiny bit more. Okay, so that side's done. I'll quickly do this side. Again, you can just, if I had really bulky fabric, I would definitely have to be trimming a lot more of the second layer. You have to also consider, like, this fabric might be a little see-through, so you can see all your trimming. So make sure that when you're trimming that you're careful to do it nice and even, so that if it does show through, you don't see a wavy kind of stitch. Okay, so that's that one. I'll prepare the collar band, and then I'll go to the iron. But first I want to show you the next step. So I went ahead and I just showed you what I would do, but you'd press it with the iron towards the side with the interfacing, and that is so we can understitch. So I'm going to put it back under the machine with my regular stitch length, and I can only go so far. Don't try to go all the way to the point. It's not necessary. It'll just make it bunchy and you'll struggle. So see, I'm going to go to as far as I can comfortably go, making sure that my seam allowances that I trimmed are facing the interfacing side. Do just 1 or 2 back stitches and just keep double checking it. Because I didn't press it, it's going to want to flip the other way. And just guide the edge of your foot. If you see here, I'm just riding the edge of my foot along the outside edge of the seam allowance, and it'll get me really close I'm using black thread so you can see, but you obviously would do this in matching thread. So now I'm getting to the other end, just go as far as you can. It's about enough, back stitch. Bobbin broke. Trim it. Okay, bear with me, my bobbin broke. Not sure why that happened, but it's okay. Two threads. All right, so that is your collar. I'll press it again in a minute to show you, but what happens with this understitch, if you can almost see without even pressing it, this is the underside that you're not going to see, and the understitch is forcing it that way. The upper side looks nice and neat, and you don't see any of those understitch, but you also don't see the bulky edge. If I didn't do this, you'd see like this rigid, flat edge.